And I became actually an object of envy, of interest from many musicians and people who were interested seriously in music. Mr. Rojdestvinsky kept on phoning me, Vov, I hear you have this and this, can I borrow it from you? He said, I was very proud that Gennady phoned me because I admired him always and I still do. So I listened to the Sibelius symphonies, but not very attentively. I thought, well, I should know what they're like. And then when Dodi came to Moscow, she said, you must listen to Sibelius. So don't you know it? I said, I think I heard it. And she kept on playing it all the time when she would come to visit me in my small apartment. And I had a record player and I had a tape recorder. She had a tape, I think, a tape. So I kept on listening to it. And it was like a parallel to our building relationship. It became such an important part of our developing relationship that what one could almost call it a milestone. I'll never forget it. And it remained in my memory and in musical memory too, or in personal memory, as one of the most important elements at that time and forever, of course.
Навсегда.
Навсегда. Yes, so I had to include it in the set. No way out. What else do you remember is there?
There are 7 discs, so there's a huge amount.
Shostakovich 5, of course. I'll never forget. I don't remember the year, but we all knew about Shostakovich's incredible problems with the Soviet government. We also knew he was a great, great composer. And all of us in the conservatory and everywhere, whenever Shostakovich would appear, it was like a deity, like a god coming and saying, Shostakovich in the conservatory, everyone looked at him. Because the respect was beyond any comment. And the sympathy for his problems, of course, with the Soviets. And his music was allowed and not allowed, and allowed again and not allowed again. And you know the famous story that when he was denounced yet again in 1948, I believe, 49, by one of Stalin's lieutenants, Zhdanov. The denunciation appeared even in the Pravda, in the party paper, on the front page, that by the statement of the party, we must say that Shostakovich and Prokofiev and some other composers are writing music that is not acceptable by the masses. They're looking the other way. I can't remember the text, but it's a party text denouncing the, not even experimentation, because the music was totally accessible, of course, but they still didn't like what they did and everything. So Shostakovich was in disgrace again. That was after the war, as you can understand. But before the war, he was denounced by Stalin for Lady Macbeth, too, for the opera. So that was the second time. He couldn't believe it, Shostakovich, just couldn't believe it. He was stripped of his 2 very important positions in the 2 conservatories, in Leningrad and Moscow, where he conducted a composition class. So he was out. Stalin allowed him to write film music, that's it. And his music was not performed otherwise. Film music, okay. Then at some point, I can't remember when exactly, but it must have been in the early 50s, suddenly the word got around Moscow that Shostakovich 5 is going to be performed. That was a big event, because either they decided to again put him in favor, or Stalin actually sent a delegation of Soviet composers to America because there was some exchange of some sort of cultural exchange, and Shostakovich was included. Stalin phoned himself, actually, because Shostakovich, when he was notified, he said, I'm not going. And they said, why? Well, just I'm not going. You don't play my music. So Stalin phoned him, and that's a true occurrence, because if you ask Maxim, he was in the neighboring room, and he heard his father talk to Stalin. And Stalin said, I hear that you are against going to America with a delegation of Soviet composers. He said, yes, I am Comrade Stalin. And he said, why? He said, well, my music isn't played in my own country. What will I say in America? He said, is that so? Let me see what I can do about it, he said. So his music was performed the next few days in Moscow, and he went to America. And it was broadcast too. And Gauck, Alexander Gauck, quite an important conductor at that time, who had a conducting class in the conservatory, was conducting it. So we all went to the radio and listened to it, and that was the first time I heard the symphony. So how could I forget it?
What was the impression it made on you?
That's difficult to say. I probably was too young to understand what it meant, all the things around it. What I might have been, I don't know, 14, 15, but it's a bit too early to know. I was impressed by the piece, of course. I thought it was a great piece, but what it meant, I didn't know at that time. But I couldn't not include it, It was something I never forget,
Well, I'm not surprised. Give us another one.